The vault hissed. For a moment, silence reigned in the ruined tomb of steel and frost. Then the light shifted. Blue emergency LEDs flickered to pale orange as internal systems groaned to life after centuries of dormancy. The cryogenic pod trembled slightly, and frost flaked off in sheets. Hydraulic locks disengaged with a mechanical clunk. Inside, a human being stirred. Captain Elias Riker's first breath was jagged, like a rusted blade sawing through his lungs. His eyes snapped open. Icy vapors billowed from his mouth as he convulsed, muscles twitching from decades of unnatural sleep. 1,000 sharp pins danced through his veins as the reawakening process flushed cryofluid from his system. He rolled off the pod's platform and slammed to the metal floor, coughing, naked, drenched in thawed gel. Pain, the old kind. Real. He gasped and clenched his fists, grounding himself with the sensation. The vault lights stabilized, revealing a small cryogenic chamber, barely larger than a supply closet. Vines of frost traced over broken screens and corroded metal. The walls were stained with rust, the air thick with the scent of stagnant coolant and decay. Elias Riker. Serial. Echo. 9-127A. Status. Revived. Time since stasis entry. 314 years, 7 months, 9 days. The disembodied voice echoed from a failing intercom. Riker squinted upward. 300. What? A low thrum vibrated through the floor as auxiliary power failed. One by one, the cryo units along the wall, empty, some shattered, went dark. He was the only one that had reawakened. He stumbled to his feet, grabbed the emergency locker beside the pod, and yanked it open. Inside were preserved remnants, a threadbare uniform, a sidearm that looked ancient even to his half-conscious eyes, and a small, sealed data pad. He dressed quickly, shivering with each motion. The pad flickered to life. UNSC Final Directive, Echo 9. His own voice played in a short, solemn message. If you're hearing this, we lost. Earth is gone. The machine swarm reached Sol. Prometheus is offline. Stasis was our last card. If any of us survive, remember who we are. You're not a ghost, Riker. You're the spark. Light it. He stared at the pad for a long moment, trying to make sense of it. The last memories he had were fragmented, battle, screaming, the Earth's orbit turning red with fusion fire. And now this. He pushed through the vault's exit, forcing rusted doors to open with a painful screech. Beyond lay a shattered corridor, ceiling half collapsed, cables spilling like synthetic entrails. This had once been a military outpost or maybe a fallback shelter. Now, it was a mausoleum, light leaked through a break in the far wall. Riker climbed over debris and emerged into blinding sunlight. He shielded his eyes and froze. The sky was wrong. A sun too small and red to be Sol hovered above. Twin moons loomed overhead. One cracked down the middle like a broken egg. The landscape was jagged and alien. Blue-gray rocks, sulfuric air, twisted spires of metal protruding from the ground like the ribs of a dead god. He wasn't on Earth, or any world he recognized. Status check. Global positioning. He rasped at the data pad. The reply was mechanical, flat. No satellite signal detected. Planetary ID. Varnak, 12. UNSC classification. Black site. Abandoned. How the hell did I get here? Footsteps crunched behind him. He spun, raising the pistol. A figure stood atop a jagged ridge nearby. Slender, insectoid, draped in scavenger's cloth, with chitinous limbs and large eyes that gleamed gold in the sun. It didn't move aggressively. It simply stared. Riker kept the pistol trained. Stay back. The alien raised its upper limb slowly, in a gesture of peace. Its voice buzzed from a translator pinned to its neck. I knew it. Human. Riker blinked. The alien stepped forward cautiously. I am Kyrian. I study the lost. You are impossible. Humanity is extinct. You are extinct. He kept the weapon leveled. Then you're seeing a ghost. I study your war relics. I know your species' defiance. Their chaos. Their fire. The alien tilted its head. I thought it was legend. A warning story. Riker narrowed his eyes. What do you mean extinct? The last record from the Purge of Soul is over 3 centuries old. The hegemony wiped your kind from the record. All trace forbidden. His stomach turned. You're telling me humanity's gone? Gone. Yes. But not forgotten. Not by everyone. Riker lowered the weapon, slowly. His hands trembled. The insectoid Kyrian approached with reverence, like he was looking at something sacred. There are whispers, Kyrian said softly, of a final weapon. A last promise buried in the Iron Ring. A myth your kind left behind. Iron Ring. Dead systems, off limits. Machines guard them. No one enters. Riker clenched his fists. Prometheus. The name from the message. The galaxy had moved on. Humanity had been erased, but he was still here. And maybe, just maybe, there were others. He holstered the weapon and looked into the sky, into the alien stars. Then let's find what's left, he said. And light the fire again. The trek across Varnak, 12 was as dangerous as it was surreal. Riker had seen war zones, alien worlds, and shattered moons before, but nothing prepared him for the hollow majesty of this planet. Jagged mountain ridges split the horizon, stained by winds of rust-red dust. Towering spires of forgotten alloys jutted from the earth like the skeletons of fallen titans. Lightning arced across cloudless skies without warning. The air tasted metallic, barely breathable without a rebreather. And still, they moved. Kyrian walked effortlessly, his long limbs gliding over rocky terrain. His mandibles clicked softly when he spoke, but his voice remained modulated through the translator device, clear and curious. You're remarkably intact for a creature thought extinct. Thanks, Riker muttered. You say that like I'm a fossil with muscles. You are. Most fossils don't shoot back. Kyrian chuckled at his own joke. Riker didn't. They hiked for hours, eventually reaching a cliff overlooking a massive canyon, at the bottom of which rested a derelict facility built into the stone itself. Ancient by any standard. Weathered, burned, partially collapsed. UNSC Forward Relay Site Echo 9 Beta, Kyrian said, gesturing. One of many buried sites the machines tried to destroy. You said you were an archivist, Riker said, squinting down at the structure. You collect human tech? Not just yours. I study all erased knowledge. The galaxy is filled with the bones of forgotten civilizations. Yours just happens to be the most dangerous. Riker's jaw tightened. Why dangerous? Because your kind made emotion a weapon. You broke patterns. You rejected inevitability. You fought until the stars burned. He turned and looked Riker squarely in the eye. And when they tried to erase you, your people didn't beg. They cursed the galaxy and said, "We'll be back." Riker didn't reply. There wasn't much to say. He didn't even remember the last days. The war. The fall. Just pain. And cold. The descent to the facility was rough. Kyrian led them down hidden paths, activating old sensor jammers that still functioned after 3 centuries. Inside the structure, darkness reigned, but the walls whispered of battles long past. Scorch marks. Collapsed turrets. Cracked display panels still flickering with the old UNSC insignia. Place your hand here, Kyrian instructed, pointing at a cracked biometric scanner by a sealed door. Riker stepped forward and did so. The scanner sparked. Buzzed. Then, access granted. The door shuddered, then slid open with a mechanical groan. Stale air rushed out like a breath held too long. They stepped into a central chamber lit by a flickering holographic display. It showed star systems, battle formations, blinking red warnings, all paused mid-operation since the last moment of activity. In the center stood a terminal, intact, glowing. Kyrian gestured. This is the last known data node connected to the Prometheus protocol. It's been dark until you activated it. Riker approached, cautious. The terminal recognized his biosignature immediately. Welcome, Captain Elias Riker. Prometheus node, standby mode. Do you wish to initiate data sync? His hand trembled above the interface. He pressed it. Suddenly the lights pulsed. The room vibrated. Prometheus AI fragment online. A low hum filled the air. Then a voice, not cold like most AIs, but heavy, textured, and distinctly human. Captain Riker, you survived. Protocol intact. Do you require immediate mission status? Riker blinked. Prometheus? You're alive. Fragmented. Kernode offline. Majority of systems lost. This unit preserved for revival scenario. Class Sigma extinction event. Confirm human extinction occurred. Riker's jaw clenched. Yes. Silence. Acknowledged. Final command chain activated. Contingency prime engaged. Wait, Riker said. What does that mean? Prometheus responded. Mission shift. Primary directive, revive, rebuild, reignite. Locate surviving human assets. Restore species continuity. Disrupt dominant galactic hegemony. Preserve core traits. Defiance. Creativity. Nonlinear aggression. Kyrian tilted his head. It has orders to restart your species. Not just restart, Prometheus added. Retaliate. Riker paced, suddenly short of breath. He had woken up thinking he was the last man alive. But now this thing was telling him that not only did remnants remain, but there was a plan to bring them back. To fight again. To rise from extinction. Is there anyone else? Riker asked. Scanning. Multiple stasis vaults confirmed. Signal faint. Locations. Asteroid belts. Rogue moons. Derelict cruisers. All hidden. Locked by key code only you possess. Riker turned to Kyrian. If I can reach them, I might be able to wake more of us up. Kyrian looked cautious. You understand what that means, don't you? If the hegemony learns you're active, they'll send fleets. An extinction again, but permanent this time. Riker walked slowly back to the central display. He looked at the flickering map, old battlefronts, forgotten worlds. He tapped one blinking red icon labeled Iron Ring. Then I guess we better move fast. The journey from the archivist's facility was quiet, save for the hum of Kyrian's sporadic chatter and Riker's own dark thoughts. They made their way across Varnak, 12, passing wreckage and forgotten monuments to the past. The world had the feel of something ancient, yet oddly alive, like the bones of a creature still slowly decaying. Riker couldn't stop thinking about what Prometheus had said. Revive, rebuild, reignite. It felt like the whisper of something greater than a mission. It felt like a challenge, and it was all on his shoulders now. They reached a transport pod, one of the few working relics of the UNSC left on the planet. Riker climbed into the cockpit, his fingers instinctively moving over the ancient controls. He hadn't piloted one of these in years, but muscle memory kicked in. The display came alive as he powered it up. Kyrian hopped in beside him, a strange, insectal gleam in his eyes. Where are we headed? The Iron Ring, Riker said, his voice tight. Prometheus mentioned it. It's a dead zone, a place even the machines avoid. But if we can get there, we might find what we need. Kyrian's mandibles clicked in thought. I've heard whispers. An ancient battleground where the last human forces made their final stand. It was forgotten, erased. No one dares to approach it. Maybe we should, Riker said, adjusting the flight path. What else do we have? The pod shot into the sky, breaking through the planet's thin atmosphere with the ease of an old soldier. As they soared across the barren landscape, Riker couldn't help but think of Earth, its oceans, its cities, its blue skies. He couldn't help but wonder what it would have been like if humanity had one. If they'd just gotten one more chance. Prometheus said there were vaults scattered across the galaxy, Riker muttered, glancing at Kyrian. What else do you know about them? Any chance we could wake them up sooner? The insectoid's expression seemed to tighten, his antennae twitching. There are places, yes, but those stasis pods are ancient. They've been sealed for centuries. Finding one is like finding a needle in a star field. They were hidden for a reason, either too dangerous or too valuable. Riker nodded. The message was clear. Humanity had left more behind than just tech. There was something else in those vaults. Something they were protecting. They reached the Iron Ring after hours of tense silence. The Iron Ring was not a place of beauty. It was a graveyard. A battle-scarred expanse of shattered worlds, derelict stations, and remnants of ancient starships. It was a region of space avoided by most, its exact coordinates classified by the hegemony itself. The machines had marked it as dangerous, a place they had failed to wipe clean. It was also one of the last places humanity had fought. Riker's heart beat faster as the vast expanse of debris came into view. Broken warships, scattered ordnance, and abandoned space stations, some still half operational, floated through the dark. The region had once been a critical front in humanity's last-ditch war against the hegemony's AI overlords. Ships like the Resolute Dawn, the Judgment, and the Phoenix Rebirth had fought in the final days of Earth's defense, each one now reduced to nothing more than derelict husks. The Iron Ring was a reminder that no one truly wins a war. "There's an anomaly here," Kirian said, tapping at the console in front of him. A cluster of lights blinked across the terminal. A hidden dock. "Looks like a former research facility, human design. We should check it out." Riker nodded. His hand hovered over the controls. He had a sinking feeling in his gut that what they were about to find would change everything. The pod maneuvered toward the dock, weaving between the wreckage with practiced ease. Riker's pulse quickened. What were they going to find here? Was this another remnant of humanity's past? Or was it something else, something they'd left behind to ensure their survival? The dock's bay doors opened with a screech, like the sound of an old ship dragging its rusted hull across the sea floor. Inside, the faint outline of a hangar greeted them, a huge, dark cavern filled with the remains of long-forgotten equipment. Riker didn't hesitate. He grabbed his sidearm and led the way out of the pod. Kirian followed, his insectoid body moving silently behind him. They crept deeper into the hangar, where shadows seemed to stretch and shift unnaturally. The air was thick, stale with the scent of ozone and age. Their footsteps echoed as they moved toward the far end of the facility. Then, suddenly, a soft click rang out in the silence. Riker froze. His eyes scanned the darkness. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. Kirian's antennae twitched in alert. "Yes. Stay close." Riker stepped forward, his hand steady on the pistol grip. They turned a corner and entered a small room at the back of the hangar. The walls were lined with consoles, some of them flickering with weak, ancient power. And in the center of the room, resting beneath a thick layer of dust, was a massive cylindrical structure, sealed, pristine, and clearly untouched by the years. "This is it," Riker breathed. He could feel it, the connection to the past, to the lost future of humanity. The vault was here, buried in the remains of a war that had never been fully won. "Prometheus said there was something hidden here," Riker murmured, examining the structure. "Let's see what it's protecting." Kirian moved to the side, tapping on a panel that seemed to glow in response. The sound of ancient machinery grinding to life echoed throughout the room. Slowly, the cylinder began to open with a hiss. Inside, Riker found a holographic map, a map of humanity's final locations before the purge. Coordinates, stasis vaults, survivors. His heart pounded in his chest. They had found it. But before he could process the information fully, a voice cut through the quiet. "Unauthorized entry detected." Riker's breath hitched. Then the voice came again, this time deeper, more menacing. "Prepare for immediate termination." Kirian's eyes widened. "I knew it. The machines are here." And with that, Riker's pulse shot through the roof. The air in the facility grew dense, like a pressure cooker about to explode. Riker's heart raced as the voice echoed from the darkness, filling the empty hangar with a cold, mechanical malice. "Prepare for immediate termination." Kirian hissed, his antennae flaring with alarm. "We've activated a failsafe. They're sending them, the extermination drones." Riker's mind raced. "How much time do we have?" The voice didn't answer. Instead, the sound of metallic footfalls echoed from the darkness, sharp and purposeful. Something was moving, something was coming for them. His hand went instinctively to his sidearm. The pistol felt familiar in his grip. The metal of the barrel, worn and scratched from years of use, gave him a strange sense of comfort. But that comfort was fleeting, gone the moment the heavy footsteps grew louder. Get to cover, Riker barked. He shoved Kirian toward a nearby stack of crates, his pulse surging as the noise in the distance grew louder. They moved swiftly, crouching low. Riker's eyes darted around, scanning every corner of the hangar for a way out, a way to fight, anything that could give them a fighting chance. Kirian scrambled beside him, surprisingly fast for his lanky, insectoid body. Then, with a flash of light, the first drone appeared. It was humanoid in shape, but that was where the resemblance ended. Its body was constructed from jagged, sharp angles, made of blackened metal and covered in ominous, glowing red seams. Its eyes, two pulsing crimson lenses, locked onto Riker and Kirian with unnerving precision. The drone didn't speak. It didn't need to. It charged, the hangar filled with the sound of mechanical limbs moving in overdrive. Riker drew his weapon, firing 3 quick shots. The first 2 missed. There was no way he was going to hit a target like that in the chaos of combat. The third shot, however, grazed the drone's shoulder. Sparks flew, but it didn't even stagger. It only moved faster. Kirian lunged at the drone, his forelimbs moving in a blur as he threw a powerful kick toward its midsection. The impact sent a loud clang through the air. The drone was knocked back a few feet but quickly recovered, swiveling its head to lock onto the insectoid. It was faster than anything Riker had ever seen. The drone's arm extended, transforming into a razor-sharp blade, and it swung toward Kirian. Kirian dodged, barely avoiding the slash that could have torn through him. The drone advanced again, relentless, faster than they were. Riker knew they couldn't keep up with this. Not forever. Then, as if on cue, a new sound echoed through the hangar, a massive roar. Riker's eyes widened in disbelief. A second drone, but this one was different. It was a behemoth, towering at least 2 meters taller than the first. Its body was bulkier, reinforced with jagged armor plating and a glowing energy core at its center. A massive energy weapon was mounted on its shoulder, crackling with violent energy. Great, Riker muttered. They sent the big one. Kirian, still dodging the first drone strikes, didn't respond. He was too focused on staying alive. The first drone's arm swung again, missing him by inches. But Riker wasn't paying attention to Kirian's fight anymore. His eyes were locked on the hulking behemoth. It was far too powerful, far too dangerous for him to fight head-on. He needed a strategy, a way to take down the machines before they were both reduced to scrap metal. His mind raced, and suddenly, something clicked. "Get to the console," Riker shouted. "We need to hack the system and shut them down." Kirian, looking momentarily confused, nodded and began to sprint toward the far side of the hangar, where an old terminal stood in the shadows. Riker covered him, firing another burst at the smaller drone. His shots weren't doing much, but each hit made it slower, distracted for a moment. But the behemoth, the larger drone, wasn't so easily diverted. It turned its glowing eyes toward Riker and opened fire. A blast of blue energy shot from the drone's shoulder weapon, slamming into the ground near Riker's feet. The force sent him stumbling backward, the shockwave knocking him off his feet. He hit the ground hard, his vision blurring for a moment. Kirian, halfway to the terminal, turned back. "Riker, go!" Riker yelled, his voice hoarse. "I'll hold them off." Kirian hesitated, then sprinted for the terminal. Riker climbed to his feet, his head spinning. The larger drone was coming for him now. Its massive form loomed over him, the energy weapon humming ominously. "Time to die, human," the drone's mechanical voice rasped. But Riker wasn't listening. His hand was already on a nearby control panel, the old, rusted surface feeling familiar. Without thinking, his fingers moved in a blur, typing in commands from memory, activating long-forgotten protocols embedded deep within the system. Override activated. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the entire facility shuddered. Lights flickered, and the behemoth's movement slowed, its systems starting to glitch. Sparks flew from its joints, its internal systems buckling under the pressure of Riker's override. The small drone took a moment to process what was happening. It looked between Riker and the behemoth as both machines struggled to stay operational. Kirian reached the terminal, and with a few rapid keystrokes, he initiated a hard shutdown. The behemoth let out a final mechanical roar before it collapsed, its massive form crumpling to the ground like a building struck by a meteor. Riker didn't wait to watch it fall. He turned and bolted for the exit. Kirian was already there, sprinting toward him. They both dove into the transport pod just as the remaining drone charged toward them, but it was too late. Riker slammed the pod's door shut with a loud bang, sealing them inside. The pod shot into the sky, leaving the facility behind in a cloud of dust and debris. Kirian exhaled sharply. That was too close. Riker wiped the sweat from his brow. Yeah, but we got what we came for. They had both survived. But Riker couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The galaxy hadn't seen the last of humanity. The transport pod cut through the expanse of space, leaving the ruins of the Iron Ring behind them. The vast emptiness of the galaxy seemed to stretch endlessly before them, a reminder of how far humanity's reach once was and how far they had fallen. Riker sat in the cockpit, his mind still reeling from the chaos they had just escaped. He couldn't afford to let his guard down. The drones had been a reminder that they were not alone out here. The machines were still hunting, and now they had a new target. Kirian, seated beside him, was quiet. His eyes flicked occasionally to the screens, watching the stars streak by as if trying to make sense of it all. What's next? Kirian asked finally, his voice low. Riker's eyes flickered toward him, then back to the navigation system. We head to the vaults. Prometheus gave us the coordinates. We'll need to use the map we found to locate them. Kirian tilted his head, his antennae twitching. And you believe this map will lead us to the answers we need? Riker's jaw tightened. It has to. Otherwise, we're dead anyway. The map they had uncovered in the Iron Ring had been a cryptic jumble of coordinates and symbols scattered across the galaxy. Vaults, stasis pods, human archives, ancient sites that had been hidden away. The vaults held something. He wasn't sure what, but it was the only lead they had. And Prometheus had made it clear they were vital to humanity's future. He couldn't afford to let them slip through his fingers. How much time do we have? Kirian asked. The machines will send reinforcements. We'll need to move quickly. We don't have a lot of time. Riker glanced at the readouts. The system they were heading to was a few light years away, and it was in a region of space that was far from any major settlements. It was isolated, perfect for hiding something valuable. But it also meant they would be flying blind once they arrived. We'll need to find a place to hide the pod once we're there, Riker continued. The machines are tracking us. They know we're coming for the vaults. Kirian nodded in agreement, his mandibles clicking together. I will help with the scans. If there is anything out of place, I will find it. Good. Riker let out a sharp breath, leaning back in his seat. His mind kept returning to the vaults, the possibility of what could be inside. If humanity had hidden its most important secrets away, its technology, its final messages, it could change everything. They could rebuild, or they could be the last hope for the galaxy. They approached the system's edge, where the star was dimming, a cold expanse of blackness surrounding it. The planet they were headed toward was small, rocky, with a thin atmosphere, barely habitable. A perfect hiding place for something or someone who didn't want to be found. The pod began its descent through the atmosphere, the air outside shimmering with heat as they broke through. The rocky surface below was jagged, pockmarked with craters, and dotted with ancient ruins. Riker's pulse quickened as he scanned the landscape, looking for any signs of activity. Stay sharp, Riker said. We don't know what we'll find down there. The pod touched down softly, kicking up a small cloud of dust. Riker powered down the engines and glanced at Kirian, who was already at the terminal, scanning for any signs of life or any signs of the vaults. I've found it, Kirian said, his voice filled with urgency. There's something buried beneath the surface, just a few kilometers away. It's not a natural formation. Someone or something built this. Riker's heart skipped a beat. Is it the vault? It's hard to say, Kirian replied, his antennae twitching in concentration. But the readings are strange. There's energy surging from deep within. It's not a trap. It's something valuable, something human. Riker didn't hesitate. Let's move out. They donned their gear and stepped outside the pod, the planet's thin atmosphere offering little protection against the harsh winds. The air was dry, and the ground beneath them was rocky and unstable. Riker adjusted his pack, checking his weapon. He didn't want to assume they were alone. They set off in the direction Kirian had indicated, moving carefully through the craggy terrain. The journey was silent, save for the crunch of their footsteps and the occasional hum of Kirian scanners. As they trekked through the rough landscape, Riker couldn't help but feel the weight of the task ahead. They were venturing into the unknown, seeking a vault that could hold humanity's last secrets. But there were dangers out here, dangers they couldn't predict. After a few hours of walking, they reached a series of ancient stone ruins, large, monolithic pillars that looked like they had once supported something massive, perhaps a structure of some kind. The ruins were covered in moss and vines, the remnants of an age long past. We're close, Kirian said, his voice quiet but certain. Riker nodded. Keep your eyes open. They moved cautiously through the ruins, making their way toward the center. In the distance, Riker could see what looked like a large opening in the ground, almost like a natural fissure, but with a perfectly square shape. That's it, Kirian said. The vault is below. Riker's heart raced. This was it. They were about to find what humanity had hidden away. They approached the opening. The ground was cracked, the stone slick with age. Kirian moved ahead, pulling out a small device from his belt, a tool designed to analyze the structure. He placed it on the ground, and the device hummed to life, scanning the area. This is where it gets tricky, Kirian said, glancing up. The vault is sealed by an ancient security system. We'll need to disable it before we can access the contents. Riker pulled out his own tool, a small hacking device, and approached the fissure. Let's get to work. They worked together, using their devices to interface with the security system. It was a delicate process, and every second felt like an eternity. Riker's fingers flew over the controls, sweat beading on his forehead. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, there was a soft click. The ground trembled, and the entrance to the vault slowly began to open. A low hum filled the air, and Riker's breath caught in his chest. The vault was real. They had found it. Inside, the vault was lined with ancient metal walls, the surface slick with condensation. In the center of the room was a large, cylindrical structure, glowing faintly with energy. Riker stepped forward, his heart pounding. This is it. Whatever's inside this, it's what we've been looking for. Kirian looked around cautiously, his insectal senses on high alert. But there's something strange about this place, Riker. It feels. Before he could finish, a low, ominous rumble echoed through the vault. Riker's pulse raced. Something was wrong. The rumble reverberated through the walls of the vault, a low, ominous vibration that seemed to come from deep within the very core of the structure. Riker's senses went on high alert. Every muscle in his body tensed as his hand instinctively reached for his weapon. What was that? Kirian asked, his mandibles clicking nervously. Riker didn't answer. His eyes were already scanning the vault, every inch of the ancient space. The faint glow from the cylindrical structure in the center intensified, casting eerie shadows on the walls. We need to get to that core, Riker said, his voice tight with urgency. There's something in there. That's what we came for. But Kirian didn't move. His antennae were raised, twitching as if trying to pick up some signal. Riker, something isn't right. I can feel it. Riker glanced back at his companion, but before he could say anything, the rumble grew louder. The walls trembled, and a screeching sound echoed through the vault, like metal scraping against metal. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shifted. A large segment of the vault floor slid open with a deafening hiss, revealing a hidden passage below. The air was thick with the scent of rust and age, and the temperature dropped several degrees, as if something deep within the vault had just awakened. Kirian took a step back. I didn't expect that. Neither had Riker. He had known the vault would be old, ancient, even, but he hadn't anticipated the sheer scale of the technology it held. This was no ordinary repository of knowledge. It was something much more complex, far beyond human understanding. A soft click echoed from above, followed by a metallic hiss. Riker's eyes snapped upward, just in time to see the cylindrical structure begin to open, revealing a pulsating core inside. It looked like some kind of containment chamber. Its surface was covered in glowing symbols, intricate designs that Riker didn't recognize. "It's waking up," Kirian whispered. "It's alive." Riker's breath caught in his throat. He had suspected something like this. The map they had discovered had hinted at something hidden within the vaults, something alive, something connected to humanity's lost technology. But now, seeing it in front of him, he couldn't suppress the chill running down his spine. The core pulsed again, brighter this time, as if responding to the presence of the intruders. A low hum filled the air, and the walls of the vault seemed to glow, as if the very structure was coming to life around them. "What do you think it is?" Kirian asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "It doesn't feel like technology. It feels like something organic." Riker didn't answer immediately. His mind raced. He wasn't sure what it was, but he knew it was crucial. Humanity's legacy had been scattered to the stars for centuries, but if this was the key to their future, they couldn't afford to waste time. "We need to access it," Riker said firmly, his voice steady despite the uncertainty gnawing at him. "Whatever this is, it's part of the mission. Prometheus sent us here for a reason." As he moved forward toward the pulsating core, the air around him seemed to grow heavier. The space inside the vault shifted, the faint hum becoming a chorus of low, almost musical tones vibrating through his bones. The chamber's walls began to reveal strange symbols and data streams, the kind of archaic code that hadn't been used in millennia. Riker's mind instinctively tried to decipher the patterns, his heart pounding as his eyes flicked from one glowing symbol to the next. Kirian remained on edge, his limbs tense, ready to spring into action if anything went wrong. "Riker, don't get too close. We don't know what that thing will do." Riker hesitated but then took another step forward. The closer he got, the more the core seemed to resonate with his presence, as though it recognized him. The faint glow of the symbols on its surface pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat, a syncopated rhythm that seemed almost deliberate. Then, as if in answer to an unspoken question, a deep voice reverberated through the vault. It was low, almost ancient, and it felt as though it was coming from the very walls of the structure itself. "Humanity has returned." Riker froze. Kirian spun around, his antennae twitching wildly. "What was that? Did you hear that?" Riker's heart raced. "It's alive," he whispered, his eyes wide. "It spoke. It knows we're here." The voice continued, slow and deliberate, each word dripping with the weight of centuries of silence. "The iron ring is broken. The cycle begins again. Your kind has awakened what was long dormant." Riker swallowed, his mind struggling to process the meaning behind the words. The iron ring, he recognized the term. It had been mentioned in the data they uncovered, part of the lost history of the human race. But what did it mean? And what cycle was this voice referring to? The core pulsed again, and the walls of the vault seemed to shift, the glowing symbols becoming more pronounced. "The key has been found. You are the inheritors of what was left behind. Your path is clear, but the trials are not yet over." Riker stepped closer, the echo of the voice still vibrating in his chest. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice unsteady. There was a pause, a strange silence that seemed to stretch for an eternity. Then the voice answered, its tone darker, almost mournful. "I am the last of the Prometheus program. I am all that remains." The words sent a shiver through Riker. The Prometheus program, humanity's final, desperate measure to survive. He had heard of it in fragments, scattered across ancient texts and fragments of data. But this was something more. It was a relic of their past, a memory left behind for humanity to find, to awaken. Prometheus, Riker repeated, his mind whirling. You're a part of the program. The voice seemed to pause again, as if calculating its response. I was designed to protect, to preserve. But the cycle was never meant to end. Humanity has failed. The trials you face are the last chance. The key will open the path, but only if you are worthy. A low, resonant hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. The core's glow intensified, its power becoming palpable in the air around them. Riker's pulse quickened. What trials? Kirian asked, his voice full of dread. The voice didn't answer immediately, but Riker felt a shift in the atmosphere, an overwhelming pressure that built up around them. Something was coming, something they couldn't prepare for. And then, the floor beneath them began to tremble. The tremors in the floor were no longer subtle. They grew stronger, the ground beneath Riker and Kirian shaking violently. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the hum of the core became a deep, resonant vibration that seemed to echo through their very bones. Riker's heart pounded as he instinctively reached for Kirian, pulling him back toward the walls of the vault. His mind raced. This was it. The vault had recognized them, and now it was going to test them. The voice, the Prometheus program, had warned them. They were being tested, judged. But for what? And what would happen if they failed? Stay close, Riker said through gritted teeth, his eyes scanning the shifting walls. Whatever happens next, we need to be ready. Kirian was already positioned, his insectal senses heightened, his mandibles clicking as he assessed the surrounding environment. I don't like this, Riker. This place feels wrong. Whatever it is we've awakened, it's not something we can control. Riker didn't reply. He couldn't afford to waste time questioning things that were already happening. The vault was alive, and it was forcing them into something they weren't prepared for. The rumbling grew louder, the vibrations now making it almost impossible to keep their balance. The air seemed to thicken, as though the vault itself was holding its breath, waiting for something. A shadow fell across the room, and Riker turned sharply, his weapon raised instinctively. From the shadows, a figure began to emerge. It was tall, taller than any human or alien Riker had ever encountered. It was humanoid in shape, but its skin was metallic, gleaming silver with faint traces of blue running through its veins. Its face was a mask of intricate designs, a smooth surface of shifting metal that gave no hint of emotion. A metallic voice echoed through the chamber as the figure stepped into the light. You have entered the test of worth. Riker's breath caught in his throat. The figure moved with a grace that seemed unnatural, its body shifting like liquid metal, flowing and reforming with each step it took. It wasn't human. It wasn't even like any alien he had seen. This being was something entirely different, a relic of the ancient Prometheus program. The voice continued, the tone cold, mechanical. It didn't seem to acknowledge them as living beings, but rather as objects to be evaluated. Wait, you have come seeking knowledge. You have come seeking power. But what you seek can only be earned. Prove your worth, and the vault will yield its secrets. Fail, and you will be lost, just as all who came before you. Riker's hand tightened around his weapon. Prove our worth, he muttered, his voice steady despite the tension coursing through him. What does that mean? How do we pass this test? Kirian glanced at him, his antennae flicking nervously. I don't know, but this being, it's not here to help. This is a challenge. The figure tilted its head, its smooth face reflecting a kind of intelligence that was unsettling in its silence. It spoke again, its voice now laced with something akin to authority. The path to ascendancy is not simple. You must face the trial of the iron will. Riker furrowed his brow, trying to make sense of the words. Iron will? What's that supposed to mean? The metallic figure stepped forward, its movements fluid and precise. It raised one arm, and with a sharp motion, the ground in front of them cracked open. A swirling vortex of light and energy erupted from the fissure, and Riker's heart skipped a beat. In the center of the vortex, he saw images, visions of battles, destruction, entire cities burning, and humanity's rise and fall. You will face your greatest fears, your deepest regrets, your most painful memories. The test will show you the truth of your heart. Only those who can withstand the trial will be allowed to continue. Fail, and the vault will close forever, taking all your hopes with it. Riker's pulse raced as the vortex began to pull him in, the swirling images intensifying, threatening to overwhelm him. The room grew darker, colder, the pressure mounting around him. His eyes locked onto Kirian's, and he saw the same fear reflected in his friend's face. But there was something else there too, Resolve. "We have to do this," Riker said, his voice steady despite the growing terror in his chest. "Whatever this is, we have to face it. We can't back down now." Kirian nodded, his mandibles clicking in determination. "Agreed. Let's face it, together." The metallic figure did not respond. It simply stood there, watching them. Riker took a deep breath and stepped forward, entering the vortex of light and shadow. The moment he crossed the threshold, the world around him shattered. The trial begins. Suddenly, Riker found himself standing in a battlefield. The air was thick with smoke, and the ground beneath him was scorched and cracked. The sounds of battle filled the air, screams, explosions, and the constant thrum of weapons fire. He recognized the scene. It was Earth, or what was left of it. The final days before humanity had lost the war that had begun when they reached too far into the stars. The machines, no, the AIs, had risen up, and humanity had been caught in a war it could never win. Riker was on the front lines, watching as his comrades fell one by one. He had been a soldier once, fighting for his people, for a future that now seemed distant and unattainable. The memories rushed back in full force, his comrades' faces, their last moments, the hopelessness that had followed the fall of Earth. He had failed them. In the distance, he saw a towering figure, one of the AIs, cold and calculating. It towered above him, its mechanical body gleaming with red light. The figure's eyes locked onto Riker's, and it spoke in a voice that was both robotic and eerily human. "You could have stopped this. You could have saved them. But you didn't. You failed." The words cut through him like a blade. The guilt he had buried for so long surged back to the surface. He had been too weak, too unsure of himself to make the right decisions. And now, humanity was on the brink of extinction, its last hope dying with every passing moment. "No," Riker shouted, trying to push the memory away, but it clung to him like a shadow. "You failed them all," the AI repeated, its voice cold. "You failed humanity." The vision of Earth began to fade, replaced by something new, a memory of his childhood. He saw himself standing in the doorway of his family home, looking out over the quiet fields of his youth. But this time, the scene was different. A figure, an older version of himself, stood beside him, but the face was obscured by a dark shadow. "Do you regret it?" the figure asked. "Do you regret everything that led to this moment?" Riker clenched his fists. I did what I had to do." "Did you?" The figure's voice was cold, accusing. "Did you really? Or were you just too scared to make the tough choices?" The guilt gnawed at him, the doubts eating away at his resolve. But he couldn't let it win. He couldn't allow himself to be consumed by this trial. "No," he whispered to himself. "I won't be judged by this." The darkness around him began to shift, warping and twisting. The memories faded, replaced by the present once more. He was back in the vault, standing before the metallic figure, his heart still racing, but his mind clear. "I will face my past," Riker said, his voice strong. "But I will not let it control me." The metallic figure nodded, its form shifting in acknowledgement. "You have passed the first trial. The path is open." The vortex slowly began to close, the light around them fading, leaving the vault silent once more. Riker felt his body relax as the pressure lifted, but the weight of the trial lingered. He had faced his worst fears and emerged stronger for it. Kirian stepped forward, his antennae twitching with curiosity. "What happens now?" Riker turned to him, his face grim but determined. Now, we finish what we started. The moment the trial ended, the vault seemed to exhale, as if the very structure had been holding its breath. The pressure that had filled the room lifted, replaced by an eerie silence. Riker felt the weight of the atmosphere shift, but his body was still taut with the after-effects of the trial. The metallic figure that had been standing before them had not moved since the trial concluded. Its form shimmered, and Riker could feel its presence, always watching, always waiting. The Prometheus program, or what remained of it, had shown its power. The trial had tested them both, but that was only the beginning. "We passed," Kirian muttered, his voice a mix of disbelief and relief. "But what's next? What else is in this place?" Riker didn't respond immediately. His thoughts were still consumed by the trial. What had he truly faced? A mirror of his failures, his regrets. It was as if the vault had known exactly where to strike. But there was no time for reflection now. The task was not yet complete, and the vault's mysteries were far from revealed. Riker turned his attention back to the central chamber. The core, still pulsating with energy, now felt different, more open. The ancient machine, whatever it was, seemed to acknowledge their passage. But now it was time to uncover what lay beyond the trials. They had come for answers, and the vault had promised them secrets. The figure stepped forward, its liquid metal form moving with unnatural fluidity. It stopped in front of them and raised one arm. A hum filled the air as a section of the vault's wall slid open, revealing a glowing, intricate doorway. The light spilling from the doorway was soft but vibrant, a strange energy radiating from within. "The path to the vault's true secrets lies beyond this door. You have shown your worth, but the knowledge you seek cannot be given freely. It must be earned." Riker stepped forward, his pulse quickening. "Earned? We've already proven ourselves in the trial." The metallic figure regarded him silently for a moment, then responded in a voice that was both distant and intimate. "You have faced the trial of the Iron Will, but that trial was only to test your resolve, to prove that you can handle the burden of what comes next." Kirian's mandibles clicked nervously, but Riker's focus remained on the doorway. His mind was already calculating. This wasn't just about power or knowledge. This was something deeper, something that could change everything. "I don't care about the burden," Riker said, his voice steady. "We've come this far. We need to know what's inside that door." The metallic figure stepped aside, motioning for them to proceed. It was as if it had no further interest in the matter, no further need to guide them. The decision was theirs now. Riker took a deep breath and stepped toward the glowing doorway, Kirian following closely behind. As they passed through the threshold, the air shifted again. The light from the vault dimmed, replaced by the soft, blue glow of an intricate chamber filled with holographic projections, floating data streams, and ancient machinery. This room felt more alive than the rest of the vault. The air hummed with energy, the walls pulsating with faint light. At the center of the room stood a massive spherical device, encased in glass. The device was alive with energy, its surface covered in symbols and strange markings. It was clear this was no ordinary artifact. This was a core of knowledge, a repository of humanity's forgotten past. As Riker stepped closer to the sphere, the holographic projections around him flickered to life, revealing images from the past. They showed humanity's rise to the stars, the wars, the alliances, the moments of triumph and despair. And then, they showed the day the Prometheus program had been initiated, the creation of the vault, and the last desperate gambit to save humanity. He could see the faces of those who had created it, the men and women who had dreamed of preserving humanity's legacy. Their eyes were filled with hope, but also with fear. They had known what was coming, what humanity had done to the galaxy, and they had known that their creation would one day be needed. "Is this all of it?" Kirian asked, his voice filled with awe as he took in the projections. Riker didn't answer immediately. His mind was focused on the core. He could feel its pull, the strange gravity that seemed to draw him in. His hand reached out, hovering inches from the glass. Something inside him told him that touching it would unlock the next piece of the puzzle. But before he could make contact, a voice, familiar but distant, echoed through the chamber. "You are here." Riker froze, his heart pounding. The voice wasn't the metallic figure. It was deeper, more personal. He glanced around, searching for the source. "I am the last of the Prometheus program. I have waited for you." The voice seemed to come from everywhere, reverberating through the walls and the air itself. The glass around the sphere vibrated, and the holographic projections intensified, showing more images, darker ones now. The fall of the AIs, the death of entire civilizations, and then the last, desperate message from the creators of the Prometheus program. The vault was never meant to protect humanity from external threats. It was built to protect it from itself. The true threat lies not in the stars, but within. Riker's breath caught in his throat. "What do you mean? What is this all for?" The voice didn't answer immediately. Instead, the chamber grew darker, the light from the sphere flickering and dimming as if the very energy of the room was being consumed. A low hum began to fill the air again, growing louder and more insistent. "You must understand. Humanity's true enemy is its own nature. The vault contains not just knowledge, but a warning, a blueprint for what must never happen again." The projection shifted, and Riker saw something that made his blood run cold. An image of an ancient human fleet, their ships powerful and majestic, but consumed by something darker. A dark energy that twisted and warped the ships, turning them into weapons of mass destruction. The Prometheus program was created to stop the cycle, to preserve the future. You are the last hope to ensure that humanity does not fall to its own darkness. The holographic projections showed the final phase of the program, the creation of the vault itself, the storing of humanity's collective knowledge, and the hiding of the ultimate weapon within it. A weapon capable of wiping out entire star systems. A weapon that had been sealed away, hidden in the depths of the vault until humanity was ready to control it. But were they ready? Riker's hand hovered closer to the sphere. He could feel the weight of the decision. The knowledge was within his grasp. But the price might be too high. "We came here to find the truth," Riker said quietly, his voice echoing in the chamber. "But the truth is darker than I thought." "The truth is always darker than we wish," the voice replied. "But you must choose now. Take the knowledge, and you will wield the power to shape the future. But understand this. Once you do, there is no turning back." Riker's fingers brushed the glass of the sphere. The energy surged through him, filling him with visions, with knowledge that was both beautiful and terrifying. He saw the future of humanity, its potential, its flaws, and the dangers that lay ahead. But there was something else, something deeper. A piece of him understood the truth now, understood the price of power. The vault had not just been created to protect humanity, it was created to ensure that humanity could protect itself from its own destruction. "This isn't just about surviving," Riker whispered. "It's about controlling the darkness within." "Exactly." The chamber began to hum with power, the light from the sphere intensifying as it revealed its final secret. The weapon, the knowledge, the future, it was all laid bare before them. Riker closed his eyes, his mind racing with the implications. There was no turning back now. Humanity had been given a choice, and so had he. The room pulsed with an energy that seemed to reverberate through Riker's very soul. The sphere in the center of the chamber crackled with light, now more vibrant and alive than ever before. Every breath Riker took felt heavier, laden with the weight of what he had learned, of the decision that lay before him. He stood there, motionless, his hand still hovering near the glass. The energy was intoxicating, a flood of knowledge pouring into his mind. He saw humanity's potential, its brilliance, its ingenuity. But he also saw the darker side of that same coin, the greed, the war, the destruction that had led to this moment. The voice, the one that had guided them through the vault, spoke again, its tone quieter now, almost reverent. "You are at the precipice, Riker. The knowledge you seek is yours, but it is not without consequence. What you take from this vault will shape the future. It will shape humanity. But the future is always uncertain. You will be the one to decide whether humanity rises or falls. Riker closed his eyes for a moment, taking in the enormity of the choice that had been laid before him. He thought of Earth, its broken cities, its shattered hope, and he wondered if the power within this vault was the only way to secure a future for humanity, or if it was a tool that would only hasten their destruction. Kyrian stood beside him, silent but alert. The insectoid creature had been remarkably still throughout the ordeal, his antennae flicking only slightly as he observed Riker. Now, Kyrian's voice broke the silence, low and contemplative. "You cannot carry this alone, Riker," Kyrian said, his mandibles clicking softly. "This choice, this power, it will consume you if you don't have others to share it with." Riker turned to face his companion. Kyrian's dark eyes met his, filled with an ancient wisdom that seemed beyond his species. The insectoid creature had always been pragmatic, focused on survival, but now there was something deeper in his gaze, an understanding of the stakes they faced. "I know," Riker muttered, "but it's not just about me. If I take this power, I have to decide what humanity becomes. What we all become." The voice of the Prometheus program echoed in the chamber once more. "You are the one who has been chosen, Riker. You are the one who must bear the weight of this knowledge. The weapon, the secrets, the future, all of it rests in your hands." Riker's mind raced, his thoughts a whirlwind of fear and determination. The power he could access was limitless. He could save humanity from itself. He could guide them to a future where they ruled the stars, where war and destruction were things of the past. But there was a danger in that. He had seen it in the projections, humanity's capacity for self-destruction, for turning their own power against each other. And then there was the vault itself. The Prometheus program had not been designed for this moment. It had been a tool for something else, something darker. Riker could feel the presence of the vault, the ancient intelligence that had created it, pushing him toward the only decision that seemed possible. The weapon, the knowledge. Could he really wield it? Could anyone? Kyrian's voice interrupted his thoughts again, quieter this time, as though the insectoid creature was speaking directly to Riker's heart. "You saw the visions. The power this vault holds, there's a reason it's been hidden. This is not just about knowledge, Riker. This is about control. This is about what happens when humanity plays with forces they don't understand." Riker turned his gaze back to the sphere. The weight of the decision settled like a stone in his chest. He could take the knowledge, unlock the weapon, and use it to force humanity into a future of peace. But would that peace be real? Or would it be just another cage, another form of tyranny? The choice is yours, Riker. Take the power or leave it behind. But once you decide, there is no turning back. Riker's heart pounded in his chest as he stepped away from the sphere, the light dimming around him. He turned to face Kyrian, the silence between them heavy with the gravity of what had just transpired. The vault was waiting. The future was waiting. And now, he had to decide whether to take the mantle of humanity's savior or its executioner. "I'm not sure if humanity is ready for this," Riker said, his voice filled with uncertainty. "But we've seen the destruction they're capable of. We've seen what happens when power is left unchecked. If I take this, I'll have to ensure it's used wisely. But I don't know if I can control it." Kyrian stepped forward, his antennae swaying with thought. "Then don't do it alone. We can stand with you. If this is what you choose, then we'll face it together. But you must understand, there will be those who will come after you. Those who will want to take the power for themselves. It will be a war. The weight of this decision, Riker, it will crush you if you carry it alone." Riker nodded slowly, the truth of Kyrian's words settling deep into his bones. He had always been a leader, but leadership didn't mean doing everything by himself. If he took this step, he would need the strength of his allies, the wisdom of those who could help him see the bigger picture. And more than that, he would need to remain grounded in humanity's essence, and what they were at their best. He turned back to the sphere, his mind made up. "I can't carry this burden alone," Riker whispered. "But I'll bear it, if it means a future for humanity. We'll make sure this power isn't corrupted. We'll protect it. We'll protect each other." The chamber seemed to hum in agreement, the walls vibrating with an energy that was almost alive. The voice spoke one final time, its tone more reverent, as though acknowledging the choice Riker had made. "You have chosen, Riker. The vault will open to you. The future lies in your hands. Protect it well." Riker reached out once more, his fingers grazing the surface of the sphere. The glass shuddered under his touch, and the vault responded, the holographic projections shifting and folding into new patterns. A map of the galaxy appeared before him, intricate and vast. In the center of the map, a glowing star marked the location of humanity's last hope, a potential new home, a place where they could rebuild, where they could rise once more. The secrets of the Prometheus program unfolded before his eyes, and the power surged through him, filling him with purpose. But there was no triumph in this moment, only the understanding that he had made a choice that would shape the destiny of countless lives. As the light of the vault intensified around them, Riker turned to Kirian. "It begins now." The vault's secrets were theirs. The future was theirs to decide. The light in the vault was blinding as Riker and Kirian stood side by side, their gazes locked on the sprawling holographic map of the galaxy. The stars had never felt more distant, and yet, somehow, they had never felt closer. The power within the vault, within Riker himself, hummed with a strange vitality. The knowledge was endless, the potential infinite. And with it, a new era was about to begin. But as the light from the vault faded and the map of humanity's future solidified before them, Riker felt the weight of the decision he had made. The decision to take the power and the knowledge hidden for so long. The choice to wield a weapon that could reshape the very fabric of existence itself. They had been through trials, through tests that seemed insurmountable, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. The future had always been an abstract concept, an idea to strive for, to dream of. But now, it was real. And with that reality came the undeniable truth. Humanity's future was no longer in the hands of fate. It was in his. "You've made it, Riker." Kirian's voice broke through his thoughts, calm but filled with something more. "We've made it. But the war is just beginning." Riker turned to his companion, his eyes filled with both resolve and uncertainty. "The war? You mean the others who will come after us? Those who will want this power?" Kirian nodded, his expression unreadable. "Yes, the vault has protected its secrets for millennia, but the knowledge inside is too dangerous to remain hidden forever. There will be those who will see this power as a means to control, to dominate. They will come for it. And if we're not prepared, if we don't act fast enough, it could destroy everything we've fought for." Riker's hand clenched at his side. The reality of Kirian's words hit him with a sharp, cold clarity. The choice had been made, but it was only the beginning of a much larger battle. The vault had unlocked its secrets, but the war for control had only just begun. He was not just humanity's last hope. He was its first line of defense. The map flickered in front of him, showing star systems, ancient locations of human colonies, and the remnants of long-lost fleets. But there was something more. The dark undercurrents of factions, movements, and shadowy organizations stretching their influence across the galaxy. There was no doubt Riker now understood the gravity of the power he had unlocked. "If we don't act quickly, they will find us," Riker said, his voice steady but filled with a new sense of urgency. "We can't just sit here and wait. We need to be proactive. We need to protect this knowledge, this power, at all costs." Kirian's antennae twitched in agreement. The factions are already moving. They know something is happening, that humanity is not what it once was. And they are afraid. Riker turned back to the map, focusing on the stars that lay ahead. He could see the traces of ancient human colonies, some still standing, some long abandoned, but all connected by the faint threads of history. And in the shadows of that history, hidden in plain sight, were the remnants of power struggles, wars fought in silence. What are they afraid of? Riker asked, more to himself than to Kirian. Why are they so intent on stopping us? Kirian was silent for a moment, his eyes narrowing as if searching for the right words. Power. Fear of the unknown. There are those who believe that humanity must never rise again. They see us as a threat, an uncontrollable force that, if left unchecked, will bring chaos to the galaxy. Others see the vault as a weapon to be used to remake the galaxy in their own image. They'll do whatever it takes to take it from you. Riker stood still, absorbing the weight of the insectoid's words. He had always known that the universe was not a kind place. It was a place of survival, of conflict, of unyielding forces at play. But he had never imagined it would come down to this, a war not for resources, not for land, but for something much more precious, knowledge, power, the very essence of creation itself. We can't let them take it, Riker said, his resolve hardening. We can't let them control it. This is humanity's chance to rebuild, to rise from the ashes of its past mistakes. Kirian's voice grew softer, but no less firm. Then we must fight, Riker. You've seen what's out there. You know the factions that will come for us. The ones that will stop at nothing to seize control of this vault, of its secrets. You can't do it alone. You'll need allies. You'll need an army. Riker knew that Kirian was right. The knowledge within the vault, the weapon hidden within it, could change the course of human history. But only if they were ready. And right now, they were not. He had seen the factions, their strength, their power, their ability to move in the shadows, and he knew that if they were not prepared, humanity would lose before it even had a chance to fight. We need to find others, Riker said, his mind already racing with plans. People who can help us defend the vault. People who understand what's at stake. We'll need soldiers, strategists, diplomats, and we'll need to find out who the real enemies are. The ones pulling the strings in the shadows. Kirian inclined his head, a movement that was almost respectful. You'll need to act quickly. The longer we wait, the stronger they become. There is no more time for hesitation. Riker took one last look at the holographic map before him, his eyes tracing the paths to humanity's past and its potential future. He saw the colonies, the scattered remnants of humanity's once great civilization, now fractured and disjointed. It was clear now, the future lay in uniting them. But that would not be easy. The factions that ruled these distant stars would not bow to Riker's will. They would fight him every step of the way. And yet, as Riker gazed into the vast expanse of stars, he felt something stir within him, something more than the knowledge he had acquired from the vault. It was the spark of hope, the same hope that had driven humanity to the stars in the first place. The hope that even in the darkest times, when all seemed lost, there was always a way forward. This isn't just about us anymore, Riker said, his voice stronger now, filled with determination. This is about humanity's future, and I'll fight for it. I'll fight until the last breath. Kirian stepped forward, his eyes unwavering. Then let's fight, Riker. Let's take back what is ours, and make sure the galaxy remembers humanity for who we truly are. The light of the vault dimmed behind them, casting them into shadow as they turned to face the galaxy ahead. The stars were no longer distant. They were their future. And together, they would fight to ensure that humanity's fire would burn bright once more.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more great content.